Welcome to today's video on the Lasat captain known as Zeb Aurelios. However, only his mother calls him that, so just like his friends, I'll likely be calling him Zeb for the rest of this video. Born on the Outer Rim world of Lasat, Zeb's military career led him to becoming captain of the Lasat High Honor Guard. The duty of the High Honor Guard was to protect the royal family of Lasat. Although at first, Zeb seems like he's just the angry muscle of his group, back on his home planet, he would have been revered for his martial arts skills, tactics in battle, and high level of education. Rebels was an amazing show, but one complaint I still have about it is that they rush through a lot of Zeb's story throughout the show. Now, when the turntables are spinning or whatever, it makes me all the more excited to see Zeb's first cameo into live action during Season 3 of The Mandalorian. The Lasat species, and Zeb in particular, were actually recreated from some of the original concept art drawn by Ralph McQuarrie for Chewbacca. Even Chopper is based on some early designs of R2-D2, while the original concept for C-3PO pops up everywhere in these shows as well. I think Zeb's Wookiee characteristics show a little bit in how hairy him and his species are, but the design choice to make them purple was pretty genius in my opinion because it makes them all the more unique. More recently, we've been seeing even more similarities between the two species because it turns out that the Wookiees are also naturally tuned into the Force. One species uses the Force to communicate with their planet, while the other uses the Force to traverse and map the galaxy. More on that soon. Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2, Spark of the Rebellion. Captain Zeb Aurelios first appears in the pilot episode The Star Wars Rebels. Introduced as one of the main members to the Spectres alongside our Twi'lek pilot Hera Syndulla, former Jedi Padawan Kanan Jarrus, exiled Mandalorian Sabine Wren, and of course, Chopper. He's just about everyone's favorite droid since R2-D2. In the episode, they came upon a boy named Ezra Bridger. Their mission was to steal crates of weapons from the Empire on Lothal, but Ezra interfered trying to take some of the loot for himself. Eventually, all of them escaped the Empire together, with Kanan offering a ride to Ezra. Zeb was less than pleased with their new stowaway, even threatening to throw him overboard.
I just want off this burner.
Please, nothing would thrill me more than tossing you out while in flight.
Instead, the crew kept the boy on the ship and brought the weapons to their contact Vizago on Lothal. From there, Vizago gave them another tip on an Imperial transport shuttle carrying Wookiee prisoners. The Spectres all agreed to go save the Wookiees. Zeb even insisted that he owed them one because they tried to help the Lasat fight against the Empire. Ezra and Hera remained on the ship while Zeb, Kanan, and Sabine boarded the transport shuttle, where they learned that there were no Wookiees on board. That's when an Imperial Star Destroyer zoomed out of hyperspace and locked the two docked ships into its tractor beam. Hera tried to contact the three on the Imperial ship, but their radios were being jammed. Ezra, under orders from Hera, went alone onto the Imperial ship to warn the others that they were caught in a trap. As the four of them plus Chopper were escaping the incoming Imperials, Zeb and Ezra were almost wrestling with each other to get to the front of the line. Just as they were all getting back onto their ship, Zeb pushed Ezra to the side to get ahead of him, but this gave the ISB agent Callus enough time to grab the boy. Zeb tried to get a clear shot on the agent, but wouldn't risk shooting Ezra, and so he fled the scene. Those Imperials must have rushed Ezra back to the Star Destroyer as fast as possible, because it wasn't long before the Ghost crew detonated the charges that Sabine and Chopper had previously planted on the prisoner transport. I'm highlighting this arc because I want to establish how rough Zeb and Ezra's friendship started out. Eventually, the Ghost crew went to take Ezra back from the Empire, but Zeb may have also clocked the kid after mistaking him for an Imperial soldier, because of his helmet. It's funny that this could be one of the reasons Sabine insists on painting everyone's helmets differently. Season 1, Episode 4, Fight or Flight. During this episode, Hera ordered Zeb and Ezra to go on a mission by themselves to try and force the two to get along. While they were only supposed to go and get supplies from the nearby town, the pair managed to get into trouble and then stole the TIE fighter right from the runway. Zeb displayed some serious skills in this episode behind the controls of the starfighter, pulling off pinpoint accurate shots while taking runs at the Imperials and then flying the TIE fighter upside down with his feet while reaching out the top of the canopy to grab Ezra with his arms. Maybe he should be piloting the Ghost a little more often. By the end of this episode, the two really grew together and started to grow more of a brotherly bond than before. The first 4 episodes do help us understand a lot of what we know about Zeb. Dave Filoni must have made it a point to give us a taste of his story and to give us some details about his new species right away. Let's backtrack 1 episode because it's an important one, then you will see how spread out his story is afterwards. Season 1, Episode 3, Droids in Distress. This time around, the Ghost crew was tasked by their contact Vizago to intercept a shipment of illegal guns from the Empire. Turns out, these weapons were T7 ion disruptors, which were outlawed after an attack on Lasat, Zeb's home planet. If you didn't know what an ion disruptor can do to organics, just take a look at Mando slaughtering these Jawas. Agent Kallus, along with walkers and a squadron of stormtroopers, attacked the group as they were trying to sell the cargo to Vizago. Kallus revealed in a confrontation with Zeb that he was at the siege of Lasat and was the one who ordered the use of ion disruptors on the people of Lasat. Kallus carried what was known as a CJ-9 bow rifle. This pissed Zeb off even more to the point of blind rage. Only the honor guard of Lasat may carry a bow rifle, Zeb called out to Kallus, and the two of them engaged in a fight using the electrified staves. During all of this, the rest of the Ghost crew, along with the help of R2-D2, rigged the shipment of ion disruptors to overload and detonate. They pushed the shipments into the legs of the inbound walkers, but the explosions were enough to knock Zeb off balance, and Kallus got the upper hand, ready to strike down his opponent. Now, this moment right here was a turning point for the crew as a whole. Ezra cried out to Zeb when he finally let go, summoning the Force strong enough to send Agent Kallus flying into the rocks behind him. And if you were wondering why C-3PO and R2-D2 were there, well, Bail Organa sent R2 specifically to spy on the Empire and gather intel on these new rebels. In a way, R2-D2 was the one who recruited the Ghost crew into the rebellion. I don't think 3PO was in on it though, because he was the one who called the Empire to come rescue him from the Spectres in the first place. Throughout the show, we got bits and pieces of Zeb's backstory. As far as we know, Zeb was in charge of the High Honor Guard when the Empire attacked his homeworld sometime between 18 BBY and 5 BBY. We don't currently have an exact date for the Siege of Lasat, but for reference, if those numbers mean nothing to you, it must have taken place sometime between the formation of Sidious's Galactic Empire and the first episode of the show Rebels. My latest mini theory is that the game Star Wars Jedi Survivor will take us to these events somewhere between 9 and 5 BBY, and if you're interested in that game, the video is a quick one. You can check it out in the description below. That theory links back to Cal Kestis' master, Jaro Tapal, who was also a member of the Lasat species. Season 2, Episode 5, Always Two There Are. On this mission, Zeb, Sabine, Ezra, and Chopper were ordered to retrieve medical supplies from an old abandoned Republic medical station. This place is really cool to see. The nose of Venator-class Star Destroyers would have been parked right here during the Clone Wars. Unfortunately, the Seventh Sister was ready for them. The Empire had droids in place on the facility to warn them of any intruders. The fifth brother must have arrived after the seventh sister, who infiltrated the facility separately. I'd assume she was the one who actually tracked the Spectres to the medical outpost. She was even surprised to see the fifth brother as he attempted to kill Ezra on sight, but she stopped him. One by one, Ezra and Sabine were captured by the Inquisitors, and Zeb only managed to escape by fighting off these miniature probe droids. This was our first introduction to these Inquisitors. Before that, Kanan and the crew only knew about the Grand Inquisitor. Knowing how ruthless the Inquisitors were, Zeb knew he wouldn't have time to run and get help. It was time for him to take control of the mission and do this by himself.
If we leave this space station, we will never see those kids again. I came here with them, and I'm not leaving without them. Hello, Spectre 6. Come in. Do you read? This is Commander Meluran.
He loaded up some of the medical supplies in the shuttle, then he came up with a plan to impersonate a rebel commander and set up a fake rendezvous with the downed Ezra and Sabine. It was an attempt to trick the Inquisitors into bringing the two Spectres into the shuttle bay area. He took the Phantom and parked it on the ceiling of the shuttle bay, then waited with the element of surprise on his side. That's a new strategy for the big guy. As the Inquisitors entered the room, Zeb dropped down and swooped in between his friends and the two Darksiders, firing the forward guns at them the whole time. Popping open the back door to the Phantom, Ezra and Sabine jumped in, and then Zeb tried to fly out the bay doors. However, the seventh sister and the fifth brother were able to hold back the shuttle using the Force and attempted to trap the rebels by closing the shuttle bay doors at the same time. Ezra and Sabine had to fire on the Inquisitors with their blasters in order to secure their escape. Neither one of the Inquisitors could have held the craft by themselves, so forcing the fifth brother to deflect the blaster bolts gave the shuttle just enough juice to jet out the door and escape the seventh sister's pull. Season 2, Episode 10, The Future of the Force. Zeb was tasked to help Kanan and Ezra track down what the same Inquisitors were doing on the planet of Takobo. Ahsoka told them to bring Zeb along because he had proven himself against the Inquisitors before. Now, that is really high praise coming from Ahsoka Tano. Down on the planet, Kanan and Ezra split up from Zeb and Chopper to widen the search area. Chopper quickly discovered the location of the two Inquisitors' TIE fighters, then Zeb got ready to plant charges and blow up the ships. However, once Zeb got close enough to one of the TIE fighters, he heard a baby crying inside. Zeb pulled the Force-sensitive baby out of the ship and left Chopper to babysit as he went looking for more kids to save. While searching the city, Zeb found the droid he was looking for and collected his second rescue, an adorable little baby Ithorian. They aren't as cute when they grow up. That's when the seventh sister and the fifth brother showed up and they chased Zeb through the streets. After losing the Inquisitors around a corner, Zeb found an apartment building where he could hide out and regroup with Kanan and Ezra. Once they were found by the Inquisitors, the four of them were trapped inside the hotel by the two Darksiders. Kanan ordered Ezra to escape through the ventilation with the baby so that they could complete their mission, leaving Zeb and Kanan to fight off the Inquisitors by themselves. The two of them also managed to escape for a while, but they all ended up back where they parked their shuttle called the Phantom. The fight continued as the seventh sister easily threw Zeb and Ezra away with the Force, and Kanan was not ready to take on both Inquisitors at once. Luckily for all of them, Ahsoka Tano showed up to the scene and she kicked the crap out of these two Inquisitors. Plus, she managed to defeat the strongest one, that being the seventh sister, without even using her lightsabers. Finally, all of the rebels escaped via the Phantom, having saved the two Force-sensitive children. Season 2, Episode 14, Legends of the Lasat. Trust me when I say that this is the part you have been waiting to see, because we get the biggest lore dump on the Lasat species during this episode. In this story, the Spectres were sent on a rescue mission by Ezra's new friend Hondo Anaka. Like this video if you want another one like it all about Hondo. Their mission was to secure the transportation of refugees on the run from the Empire. Unfortunately for the Spectres, Hondo had already sold these refugees as slaves to the Empire, only hoping that Zeb and the others would arrive in time to rescue the prisoners. To his utter amazement, Zeb laid eyes on the first two members of his own species he had seen since their home of Lasat was laid to waste. The crew wasted no time taking out the stormtroopers and brought the Lasat pair back to their ship. These Lasat seemed like they were high-valued prisoners of war to the Empire, just like Zeb would have been if he was captured in the Siege of Lasat. The male Lasat's name was Gron, and he too was a member of the High Honor Guard, even having fought alongside Captain Garazeb himself. The female Lasat was named Shava, and was one of their people's famed shamans who had a strong connection to the Ashla, their word used for the Force. She also referred to it as the spirit of the galaxy, which I kinda like. Now, if we go by the teachings of the Great Bendu, the Ashla is more specifically referring to the light side of the Force. The dark side, on the other hand, is known as the Bogan, with the Great Bendu himself claiming to be the one in the middle. These are ancient terms that predate even the Jedi Order. Zeb, by this point in his life, had grown extremely weary of certain Lasat prophecies and traditions. He had severe PTSD from the war, and for a minimum of 3 years to this point, he thought he was the last living member of his species. Memory loss is a very common symptom among those who have suffered from traumatic events. In Zeb's case, he had no recollection of Gron, even though they fought side by side on Lasat. He did, however, remember Shava as being a wise elder from Lasat, so she must have been an important figure to their society. I just wanted to highlight a little about why Zeb acts the way he does. He shelters his emotions away from the other Spectres, and he does this in a way to protect himself. When Shava and Gron called Zeb Captain Aurelios for the first time in front of the others, Hera revealed that her and the others had no idea all along that he used to be captain of the High Honor Guard of Lasat. Back on the Ghost, Shava told the Spectres that their destination was unknown, but Lyra-San was where they wanted to go. Only problem with that was nobody knew how to get to Lyra-San, and Zeb didn't even believe it existed. Shava the Wise told the group about the prophecy of the three. We'll dig to that in just a moment, but Zeb was feeling frustrated with the whole situation and went to his room to be alone. Ezra followed Zeb to their room to see what was wrong with his friend. There, Zeb told Ezra about when his people lost to the Empire in the Siege of Lasat. He explained that he fought until the end, where they held the royal palace as long as they could. But then a bomb went off, leaving Captain Aurelios unconscious outside of the palace. When he finally came to, everything had been blown to smithereens, and so he retreated to find some sort of safety. He believed he was going to die at the hands of the Empire until Kanan Jarrus came to his rescue. We have no proof that Kanan fought in the battle, but his presence there makes me think that it's very possible. According to Zeb, there were also Wookiees who helped fight in the war. This leans into my theory that the Jedi refugee group known as the Path were involved with this war. Zeb goes on to tell Ezra that he's ashamed of himself, believing he let down his people. I love this show because we got enough time spread out to see these characters grow together. Where Ezra originally wanted nothing to do with Zeb, now after almost 2 years of knowing each other, he convinces his friend that he is worthy and he should go back out there and help who is left of his people. Before we get to the climax, let's quickly go over the prophecy of the three. Basically, it is an ancient tale from the Lasat people about the Lasat who will one day find their homeworld of Lyra-San. Shava the Wise recounts it like this. The fool, simple and selfish, he would lead the warrior, bold and bloodthirsty, to hunt the hope of tomorrow, the child, to destroy him. We will find our new home only if the child saves the warrior and the fool. Shava the Wise knew of a way to find their home using the ancient techniques of their species. The two Lasat refugees began to chant a ritual in order to find the location of Lyra-San. Zeb's bow rifle had another configuration we hadn't witnessed before. Instead of the usual electro staff or blaster configurations we see in the show, this one looked more like a wizard's staff. Chopper then projected a star map for them to use. Chava had some sort of crystal in her staff that amplified the map, and Zeb's bow rifle revealed even more of the star map, locating where Lyra-San was in the uncharted regions of space. This version of the bow rifle also had the capability to take over a starship's controls. They can be used as a sort of compass to help guide the user through both space and hyperspace. To everyone's astonishment, they found the entire star system to Lyra-San, and the Spectres plotted their course into uncharted space. En route to Lyra-San, the Ghost's warning systems went off and they had to pull the ship out of hyperspace. In the way of their hyperspace lane was an enormous imploded star cluster that would have torn their ship apart had they gotten any closer. To Zeb's frustration, Shava said that it was the prophesized maze, which she failed to mention before they went there. Meanwhile, another ship was pulling out of hyperspace nearby. It was Agent Callus's command cruiser that approached them. Callus previously captured Hondo, who put a tracking device on Ezra's transmitter that they used to communicate. Hondo gave up the Spectres to the Empire for his usual selfish reasons. During Rebels, we get some of the best music in all of Star Wars. With the gravity well too powerful for the others to traverse through without dying, Zeb harnessed the full power of his bow rifle, and Gron told him to use it as the Ancients once did. This is Zeb's biggest moment in Star Wars. He takes control of the ship using the ancient device. He inched the ship closer and closer to the imploded stars, and Kallus deployed TIE fighters to slow them down. Unfortunately for those TIE fighter pilots, the gravity well was too strong and it disintegrated them under the insane pressures. Zeb continued to steer the ship safely through the gravity storm, and once he knew he saw the way, he activated the ship's hyperdrive systems and launched the Ghost into hyperspace. Let's just say this was no regular hyperspace either, because the blinding colors we see pouring into the ship, none of the others were able to handle even looking outside. I'd like to quickly theorize that this is because we are looking at a quicker version of hyperspace than the blue one we are used to. Meanwhile, Zeb was harnessing as much of the Ashla as he could, with Kanan and Ezra helping him by channeling their own connection of the Force to Zeb. The ghosts ended up right where they wanted to be, and Zeb fulfilled part of his own chosen one prophecy. The journey was so powerful that everyone on board was knocked unconscious. This actually reminds me of when Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka were unconscious when they traveled to and from the realm of Mortis. Zeb went alone in the Phantom with Gron and Chava to bring them down to the planet's surface. When he returned, he revealed to the rest of the crew that they weren't alone down there. In fact, there were millions of Lasat. Turns out, Lyra-San was in fact the original homeworld of their species, and that thousands of years ago, a group of them colonized Zeb's home of Lasan. Let's finish this arc by explaining the prophecy of the three, because I see a lot of confusion online about who the fool was. Agent Kallus took on the role of the warrior because he was the one chasing Zeb, who was the child and Lasat's hope of tomorrow. Finally, of course, we have the fool Hondo Anaka, who used a tracking beacon he left on the Ghost to help Agent Kallus find them. This makes him the simple and selfish one who leads the warrior to the child. There is, however, another interpretation from Chava where Zeb becomes all three of these roles in time.
The child in you can't see how things are, but how they can be. The fool denies his destiny, but it is the warrior you are who will create one. You are never one of these. In time, you become all of them.
Season 2, Episode 17, The Honorable Ones. Now, by this point in the show, Agent Kallus had become a returning antagonist for the Ghost crew and has even proven to be a bigger pain than the Grand Inquisitor. In this adventure, the Spectres are investigating these old structures orbiting the planet of Geonosis. Aboard this satellite, they were supposed to find what the Empire had been building here before, but it turned out to be a trap. Sometimes the rebels would get bad or outdated intel that leads them straight into these types of scenarios. Kallus was waiting for them there. Him and Zeb once again faced off with their Lasat bow rifles. In this case, the Empire vastly outnumbered the Ghost crew and they all had to make a run for it. Zeb told the others that he would connect to the Ghost in an escape pod as he was preoccupied fighting Kallus. However, once Zeb boarded the escape pod, Agent Kallus caught up to him again and the two continued their fight as the pod took off. While the two of them wrestled for their lives aboard the tiny vessel, they damaged the steering mechanism, and instead of landing safely on Geonosis, their pod instead plummeted towards its icy moon. The two barely had time to brace for impact, and Kallus broke his leg in the crash, which marooned the two in a frozen underground cave. Zeb dragged Kallus out into the snow and told him that he wouldn't kill him because he'd rather beat him in a fair fight once his leg was healed. The two of them had to try and work together to survive, but Zeb did have to do most of the work because of Kallus's injury. Zeb went to work repairing the transponder so that the two of them could send out a signal and wait to be rescued. They used up their pod's power cells to keep themselves warm. When they ran out of power, Zeb found this glowing hot meteorite that they used for warmth instead. Just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, a giant creature approached from the darkest reaches of the caves and attacked them. This four-legged creature almost got to Zeb as it chased him into the temporary safety of the crashed escape pod. Kallus picked up his bow rifle and started shooting at the beast, distracting it long enough to give Zeb a chance to regroup with his own weapon. The two of them backed the creature into the darkness, but they knew that it would likely return in greater numbers, so they prepared for the worst. Zeb used the agent's bow rifle on Kallus's broken leg like a splint to hold it straight. Now that the transponder was operational, their next obstacle was getting out of the cave so they could get a signal through without the ice above them. Zeb previously tried climbing out of the cave by himself to no avail, but this time he knew it was do or die. Kallus mentioned that he should hold on to Zeb's bow rifle while he carried him out of the cave, and the Lasat scoffed. That's when Zeb threw his bow rifle, the meteorite, and the transponder outside of the top of the cave. Zeb pulled off some pretty impressive feats in this scene. He used his foot to activate the spike that sticks out of the front of the bow rifle attached to Kallus's leg. Then Zeb used the power of his own leg to throw Kallus towards the exit and stuck the spike into the ceiling of the cave. While this move was impressive, the plan was going to crap, and the creatures were trying to eat Kallus as he hung from the top of the cave. Zeb couldn't reach the opening in time to save Kallus, and so in an act of desperation, he leapt onto the face of one of the monsters. From there, he parkoured across the other one to catch Kallus as he fell into what would have otherwise been a painful death. While still balancing on top of the monster, Zeb was able to throw Kallus right out of the cave, but struggled to make the jump himself, and was only able to make it to the ledge. Kallus grabbed Zeb's blaster and shot down at the creatures, finally scaring them away. He then extended an arm to Zeb and helped him out of the hole in the ground. Outside, the two waited to be rescued, huddled together under a protruding rock formation, once again using the glowing meteorite for warmth. Over the course of the episode and the rest of the night, Kallus shared a lot of details about his time as an agent for the Empire. While they were still in the cave below, Kallus described his first deployment on the planet Onderon, where he was the sole survivor of an attack by Saw Gerrera and his henchmen. There was an unhonorable Lasat among Saw's ranks who went around killing off the rest of Kallus's wounded crewmates. To this day, the agent doesn't know why they left him alive. There, he also described the nobility of the Lasat honor guard he faced on Lasat. He explained to Zeb that he didn't steal the weapon from the honor guard, but the bow rifle was gifted to him after defeating the Lasat in combat. Zeb then described what happened as part of the Lasat warrior way, where one is defeated by his foe, he gifts his weapon, and this tradition was known as the Busan Kira. After the two escaped the cave, Kallus tried to apologize to Zeb for his actions on Lasat. At this point, Zeb had shown so much character growth in these 2 short years, and it's pretty great to see. He interrupts Kallus and tells him that he's moved on now. This was his own way of accepting the apology and trying to bury the hatchet. Earlier, he stated he would never forget what happened on Lasat, but now he was more willing to forgive. He finally introduced himself as Zeb for the first time, but Kallus revealed he knew all along, and that it was short for Garazeb. The Spectres turned up first to rescue Zeb. He offered to treat Kallus fairly and to take him with them. However, Kallus decided to take his chances with the Empire, and the two parted ways out of view from the rest of the Spectres. The two definitely found a new respect for one another, but it was Kallus whose point of view was shifting the hardest. At the end of the episode, we see the Imperial agent return to his Star Destroyer feeling lonely. This scene here reminds me of Crosshair and his own disparity with the Empire. Kallus even kept the meteorite as a souvenir from his time with Zeb. Season 3, Episode 10, An Inside Man, and Episode 17, Through Imperial Eyes, more specifically anyways. Throughout Season 3, the Rebellion had a spy within the Empire that was feeding them useful information. The code word used for these spies and agents was Fulcrum, with Ahsoka having been the first Fulcrum we know of. Turns out, after Zeb's adventure with Kallus, the ISB agent secretly defected and joined the Rebellion as an inside man. Eventually, Thrawn would figure him out, and he had to join the Spectres outright. Captain Rex was also a valued member of the Ghost crew at this point. I wish they called one of these guys Spectre 7, but that name has now been reserved for Jason, the child of Harrison Dula, and Kanan Jarrus. I'll go over all of the must-watch episodes for Zeb at the end here, but we've covered all the ones that focus on his past and development the most. The latter seasons put a harder focus on the Ezra and Sabine stories, which were pretty epic by the way, so comment if I should make a video for every Spectre. Season 4, Episode 14, A Fool's Hope, also Episode 15, Family Reunion and Farewell. During the epic conclusion to Star Wars Rebels, Zeb helped fight against the Empire along with so many other memorable characters. Again, these episodes aren't really about Zeb in particular, but he did help defeat one of Admiral Thrawn's generals named Rook. He also fought hard in the battle and helped the others activate this giant shield which protected their base from an orbital bombardment. I don't really want to spoil too much just in case you haven't seen this conclusion, but let's just say that some people ended up dying and others lived on to continue the fight against the Empire. At the very end of this episode, us fans were treated by an epilogue monologue spoken by Sabine Wren. In the speech, which sounds like a journal entry to me. Does Star Wars ever use that term? I guess the video games definitely have. Anyways, she explained that Zeb took Kallus to the Lyrasan system where he showed his friend that he didn't wipe out an entire species because the majority of them were living in the unknown regions of space. Even though they fought on opposite sides of one war, Zeb and Kallus bonded as they helped each other recover and move on from the tragedies of their past. Now nearly 5 years after that, we see Captain Garazeb Aurelios working as a pilot or possibly just a gunner for the New Republic in The Mandalorian. What is going on? If you made it this far in the video, congratulations. I am the face of the ominous voice you've been hearing for the past 30 minutes, and I'd like to thank you for making it this far. If it's your first time here, consider liking and subscribing. And of course, what else? Oh, we're gonna go over the must-watch episodes. Let's do that right now. I'm just gonna quickly go over this list because it's been a long video, but it's just for you. So, Season 1, you want to watch episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 11. In Season 2, you want to watch 3, 5, 10, 14, 17, and 20. In Season 3, you want to watch 9, 10, 14, 17, and Season 4, it's best to watch episodes 7, 8, 13, 14, and 15. I just think that's the best Zeb experience that way. Pretty much, we talked about the ones that focus on him the most, but there's a lot in there where, he's not just the main character of the episode, but he's in there. He's in a lot of these episodes. See ya.
We're gonna be leaving soon. Kanan and me.
Yeah, I figured. Going off to the Red Blades, huh?
Yeah, I don't know when we'll be back. Or if we'll be back.
Hey, bad luck to talk like that. You'll be back. Of course, we'll probably have toppled the Empire by then. We can swap war stories.
It's a deal.